Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be talking about the Velogames Great Big Bike Game 23. So, let's just look straight at the riders who we've got here. So, as expected, we have the big Slovenian powerhouse duo, Tadej Pogačar and Primož Roglič, 24 points and 22 points respectively. Completely understandable why they are the most expensive riders. And then you see a pretty dramatic drop-off down through Geraint Thomas, Richie Porte, Lopez, Aran, all the way down to some 6 points, which you don't really see in the all-rounder category, down to Dylan Teuns, Kwiatkowski, stage winner last year. I think the main strategy that you're going to be seeing a lot of people employing is doing this, which is the ROG and POG strategy. You're going to see a lot of this. Probably going to be the most selected riders out there. I'd say that Pogačar will edge it. You'll see most people picking Pogačar over Roglič. I think I'll go through this example first, just because I think this is what most people are going to go for. After you've picked your all-rounders, the most important people who you're going to want to pick after that are your sprinters, because there are 8 flat stages that they say, which should end in a sprint, and I'd probably say yes, they are most likely to. So the sprinters we've got here, Wout van Aert is 16 points, that's a lot, that's a big upgrade from last year where he was 12, and but he also brings the advantage of that he is also a time trialist and he can also kind of climb. He has said in interviews though that he when he's not going to be contesting in big bunch sprints and stuff, but he is going to be targeting the TTs, and I'm like, wow, what are you talking about, man? Like, there's no way he's not going to contest the sprints. I don't believe it, really. If you can afford Wout, go for it. I feel like it's going to be it's very difficult to get Tadej Pogačar, Primož Roglič and Wout van Aert all on one team without having to make some serious sacrifices in other places. So I'm going to say, if you're going to pick Peter Sagan, by all means do this. Right? I think that he's a fantastic rider with full of panache, but also that Sonny Colbrelli is probably a better option, or at least a similar level to Sagan at the moment, in terms of being able to sprint and climb and contest with his green jersey, but he's 10 points rather than 14, so I'd probably say that Sonny Colbrelli is a better option. Van der Poel will do incredibly well for the opening 2 stages. He could actually win the opening 2 stages, get however many points that is, 440 points, leave the GC for those 2 days, get another 60 from that, that'll make him up to 500. By the end of stage 5 he could be nearing 600 points, but bear in mind that he will be going to the Olympics, which means that he more than likely will not stay for the whole race. It might mean that he leaves on stage 17, stage 16, 15, you don't really know. His main goal is to take the yellow jersey in the opening weekend to basically commemorate the life of his granddad, Raymond Poulidor. Good old poo-poo. Caleb Ewan, of course, is going to be going to the Vuelta after this to try and fulfill his prophecy of one stage win in every single Grand Tour. Will he leave early? I'm not convinced. I've seen people say that he will do, but it doesn't really make a massive amount of sense to me, considering that the Vuelta ends, or the Vuelta starts about a month after the Tour ends, which gives plenty of time for Caleb Ewan to go and try and recover before that. So I'd say that Caleb Ewan will probably stick around for the whole thing. But another great option who you want to put in like your wild card, probably, this is how you'll put 2 sprinters on your team, is Arnaud Démare. 10 points Arnaud Démare is fantastic value for money, I guess, if you can call this money, just because he is FDJ's guy. He's their national, he's French, he's replaced Thibaut Pinot, he's pretty much FDJ's hope in this whole race. He's got the pressure on his shoulders, but I feel like he'll do really well. He's got his whole lead out train. I think the 10 points Arnaud Démare is probably one of the better value for money sprinters here. Unclassified riders I'll go with next, and we'll do climbers last. Only Mark Hirschi at 8 points, but I'd probably be avoiding him. I did pick him last year. If you saw on my Twitter, I posted a picture of my team from last year. Hirschi was 6 points last year, and he did so well, got like 1,000 points. I'll probably be avoiding him this year. And I've actually just spoken to my family downstairs about what I think about the unclassified riders. There are so many riders who are planning on going for breakaway stages, so you're literally going to see so many guys in the climber category. You're going to see Simon Yates, David Gaudu, Lucas Hamilton, Guillaume Martin, Esteban Chavez, Guerrero, Higuita, Dan Martin, Jesus Herrada, the guys from AG2R, all the guys from Astana, all these fantastic, really good, almost GC level riders are going to sack off their GC ambitions really early to go focus on stages because they're not good at time trialing, which means that picking unclassified riders in who you think might go in a break is almost a bit of a waste, because they'll probably just be overshadowed by the quality of the guys who are in like the climber category and the all-rounder category. So my suggestion to you, people out there, is to pick time trialists instead, because there are 2 time trials, and if you pick the top time trialists, then you're more likely to get 2 good results than basically trying to do a bit of a Hail Mary and find that one guy who's going to win like one stage. You're better off going with consistency. So the good time trialists in this category, you've got Kasper Asgreen, you've got Stefan Bissiger, you've got Mikkel Bjerg, you've got Mattia Catania, you've got Stefan Kung, you've got Søren Kragh Andersen, who I again had on my team last year, who won 2 stages. Nielsen Powers is kind of a time trialist, but not a pure one. I'd probably take him off that list, and that's it really. So if you're going to pick unclassified riders, I'll go with Asgreen, Bissiger, Bjerg, and then also if you wanted to, you could swap in Catania or Stefan Kung into any of those slots. Basically, those 5 are really good time trialists. I'd be saying that those are the safest options. If you wanted to go a bit more risky, and you wanted to find that guy who's going to win that one stage, and just be like, oh, the absolute mega mind pick, right? Magnus Cort Nielsen, a sprinter who can climb, won a couple of stage, I think it was in 2018, and that'll be a fantastic option again. The Ghent hasn't quite looked on fire and quite the breakaway master that he usually is. Omar Fraile has recently won the Spanish national champs, so he is going to be rocking a very nice mile, very nice jersey during this race. However, Astana have the problem that they also will have Fulsang, Aram Baru, Jonas Agir and Alexei Lutsenko alongside Omar Fraile, which means that he is in a team of like 5 guys who could win stages, so his chances of actually winning are going to be pretty diluted because he's on a team full of guys who are just hunting for stages. They have literally said they are not going for GC whatsoever. Other guys, Philippe Gilbert, if you're that kind of romantic type who wants that. Mohoric is the Slovenian champion now, and great time trials. He's a great descender and also has a pretty good sprint on him, so I'd say that Mohoric is a fantastic pick, honestly, for 6 points. I think a lot of people will be selecting him to go on their teams. Oliver Nason is, again, in a similar boat where he could certainly get in a break, certainly win from a sprint, something like that. Adi Schelling has done well in the recent Balois Belgium tour. He came, I think it was like 5th on GC, could run a top 10 placings. I reckon he'll be allowed off the leash on a couple of stages alongside Patrick Conrad maybe, to go and hunt for some stages. So yeah, you'll see Schelling on the attack probably, at least I hope so. I think he's a very aggressive rider. Tom Scruins is the new Latvian road race and time trial champion, and you could see him on the attack quite a bit. Michael Valgren I think is another fantastic pick on the same level as Mohoric, because he came 3rd in the mountains classification at the Dauphiné and a top 10 finish, plus he finished in the top group of the Danish road race, which has just happened at the weekend, and he's looking like he's climbing really well, very aggressive rider. I think that Valgren's a fantastic pick again, but on a team who contains the likes of Higuita, Guerrero and Nielsen Paulus. Again, a very saturated team in terms of talent. If you're coming down to the 4-pointers, welcome to the bottom of the barrel. To be honest with you, I'll like to think that I can find some good deals in the 4-point category, but again, George has done a very good job of putting guys who are not very good in this category. So, Julien Bernard, Trek Segafredo, probably one of their only climbers to go in breakaways. Yes, that's a pretty good bet. This Bonamour guy for B&B Hotels did alright at the Dauphiné. Couple of like top 15 results. You got Sylvain Dillier, who is the new Swiss road race champion. Who's again usually gets himself in a couple of breakaways. Elie Jesper won a mountaintop finish at the Volta au Gave earlier this year, and I think that he could be quite a outside pick for people, especially since Nairo Quintana isn't looking in great form, so perhaps Arkea will be a bit more aggressive in trying to get into the breaks. You have, there's a good one here, Michael Murkoff, the lead-out man for Cav or Ballerini. Of course, because he is the lead-out man, he may accidentally find himself in the top 10 a couple of times, so that could be, you know, just getting points just because of good positioning that he may have. Anthony Perez is known to get in breakaways quite a bit. In fact, he held the polka dot jersey at the start of the Tour last year, but then had to pull out because of a crash. Niels Pollitt can do a decent time trial, so perhaps he could do alright on those two stages. Jonas Rickart for some assist points on Van der Poel in the opening stages. Again, Miles Scottson, another time trialist who could finish in the top 10, you know, on 2 occasions. And then you also, I mean, maybe you go with, there's a couple of other guys who you might want to go with just for, like, you know, assist points. You've got, I don't even dare say this guy's name, but this guy for UAE Team Emirates, just because Pogacar may get into the top 3 and you start getting assist points at that point. So, you know, you could pick him, you could pick Tim de Klerk for Alaphilippe assist points. You could, I don't know, pick Jorge Arcas for Movistar likely team classification assist points as well. So, now we got to the point where we have 14 points remaining, so we can pick an 8-pointer and a 6-pointer in the climber category. But before I do, I'll go through all the guys here and say who I like and who I don't like. Julian Alaphilippe, opening 2 stages, pretty much designed for him. In fact, this tour's pretty much designed for him to give as good of a GC crack as possible, similar to 2019 where he finished in 5th place. He looked pretty good at the Tour de Suisse before he had to pull out for the birth of his child, which is, you know, a completely understandable reason to pull out of a race. And, you know, he'll be very motivated in the World Champ bands with his new child. I'm sure he'll be on fire at the Tour. And, you know, best of luck to Lulu there. How do I feel like he'll go in GC? I'm not overly too sure. I wouldn't be willing to say that he's going to beat Rog and Pog. Could he finish in the top 10? Yeah, I'd say he probably could. I think with time trials, despite that he is pretty good at time trials, he will still lose time to those two during those 2 days. Carapaz has actually improved his time trialing quite a bit. We saw him absolutely on fire at the Tour de Suisse. He's a very aggressive rider, and I actually think that he could do quite well in the opening 2 stages. We've seen him at the Tour of Poland, I think it was last year, where he, on an uphill finish, just attacks in like the last 500 metres and ends up winning. And he also did that with Giro the year that he won back in 2018. So Carapaz actually is quite a decent option for, you know, the GC fight as well. If I was to not pick Rog and Pog, I would pick Carapaz instead, basically. Teo, I'd avoid. Simon Yates, again, I'd avoid. Just because they're very expensive for guys who, A, first, this guy's a domestique, B, this guy's stage hunting and preparing for the Olympics. Buckman, coming off of like a crash of Giro, don't pick him. Go do, pretty decent option for 10 points actually. Just for the fact that he is literally the only climber that FDJ have apart from Valentin Madouas, who doesn't look in particularly good form at the moment, so therefore Go do should have a lot of pressure on his shoulders to do some big things. Jack Haig to finish in the top 10 of GC, probably. Lucas Hamilton to hunt stages, probably. Sepp Kuss could be a bit of a sleeper. I think that he hasn't looked great, but he has been, you know, on fire of a Vuelta in the Tour last year. So perhaps for 10 points he could actually be a bit of a surprise pick that perhaps not a lot of people are going with. Guillaume Martin, another one who's going for stages, shocker. Nairo Quintana I'd avoid. Mac Woods going for GC apparently, despite the fact that he may as well only have one leg during a TT, but you know, whatever. I think he'll probably just go for stages, as per the other 10 other people in this category. Warren Barguil will go for stages, but I think it's a pretty decent option because he finished 4th at the French road race the other day. Esteban Chavez hasn't looked great since Catalonia. Formolo, no. Guerrero, probably not. Higuita, probably not. Patrick Conrad looked good at the Dauphiné, but he'll be on Kelderman duty for a lot of time, so, what do you do there? But I still like him as an option, to be honest. I think he will be given freedom. He is the Austrian champion now. Again, I think that, Conrad to win a stage definitely could happen. Pierre Latour I'd probably avoid. Micah, domestic duty, probably not. Dan Martin's on stage hunting. So another one of those. Marc Soler I'd avoid. Kuznetsov, opening 2 stages, good for him. 6 points, pretty good value. Mark Donovan, no. Kenny Alisson, no. Sergio Enal, no. Jesus Ruada, possibly because he finished pretty high up in the Spanish road race, pretty fast, and a good climber. Valentin Madouas, probably not. Aurelien Palipentula is going to be the GC guy for AG2R, and I think for 6 points he's probably one of the best value guys there is going. Nance Peters, I'm not really expecting too much of. And then Pierre Lalonde, is Pierre Lalonde, and he'll go on the attack all the time. If I had to pick some guys, I'd probably say, Palipentula and Conrad, or, maybe I'd go for Barguil instead. If I wasn't to go with this team, we're just going to quickly say, if I wasn't to go with Roggenpog, like I know that some people of you might not want to do, I'd probably take him off, and I'd probably go with somebody like Iran, Kelderman, Ben O'Connor. I'd be avoiding these 6 pointers, to be honest with you, other than maybe Tige. The 8 pointers, Vingegaard will be on Domestiques duty. Ben O'Connor looks actually really good, and I think could be a fantastic option for a lot of teams. Nibali, no. McNulty, no. Lutsenko and Izagir, Froome, Bilbao, no. Just because they're stage hunters, and for 8, that's just way too much. Valverde, I never really know what to think of Valverde. He's just, sometimes he's hot, sometimes he's not. I just don't know what kind of form he's going to be in. He'll do alright in the first 2 stages, but what's he going to do the rest of the time? Probably help Masson Lopez. Kruijswijk, no, I wouldn't pick. The reason why I like Kelderman is because he actually looks pretty fast in some uphill kind of finishes, which are kind of flat, so he'll do okay in the first 2 stages, and he's got a good time trial, which means that he'll probably finish inside the top 10 on GC. Full Sang for 10 points is quite expensive for a guy who's just hunting stages, but still pretty good value nonetheless. Iran, after a fantastic Tour de Suisse, is very good value for 12 points. Lopez, again, just those lack of hilltop finishes will probably hurt him. He'd definitely like a few more of those, but he'll probably still finish in the top 10 nonetheless, but might not be the most efficient rider for you to pick. Richie Porter's a fantastic time trials, but is he going to be on domestic duty? Probably, because more than likely Geraint Thomas and Richard Carapaz will be their leaders. Which then leads us to, who would you take off? Roglic or Pogačar? Personally, I'd probably be tempted to take off Roglic just because he hasn't done the races. Perhaps doesn't have the zip in the legs. And I think that Pogačar is just a bit of a safer option all in all. So let's say, in theory, I take off Roglic. Let's put on Ben O'Connor as a replacement. I will then use those points to get to myself Richard Carapaz, and then I have 4 points left over. You can choose to do with these points what you so wish. You could upgrade Ben O'Connor to a higher point. You could go with Iran, for example, to have Pogačar, Iran, Carapaz, and the rest of the team as is. This is a very strong team, and one that I am very tempted to use myself. Alternatively, if you don't quite fancy Iran, you could go with Kelderman, then you have 2 points left over. You could then use those to upgrade Conrad to Gaudu, for example, if you're quite liking Gaudu. You could use those on Caleb to get Sagan, if that's your kind of thing. Or you could upgrade one of the 6 pointers to Mark Hershey, or you could use those 2 points on Demar to take any 12 pointer that you so please, if you perhaps wanted Lopez, or Caleb Ewan, or Van der Poel, or Yates, for example. That would be an option that I'd be tempted to go with. Personally, I feel like the strongest of those options was probably this, just because Iran looked pretty good, and I think that he could certainly finish 6th place on GC. But again, are you fighting for 6th place? I don't really know. Is that worth fighting over? Should you be thinking like around, or should you go for guys who are going for breaks? That's always just quite tricky. I feel like a lot of guys are writing themselves out of GC already, that Iran could finish higher up than a lot of people are expecting. Because you'll probably see Rog and Pog, 2 guys from Ineos inside the top 5, but who's that other guy going to be? You know, it could be Iran, it could be Lopez, it could be Lulu, it could be, I don't know. I don't really know who it could be. It could be Godou, for example, if he really put his head down. I don't really know. So that would be one team option on the screen right now, and the other option, of course, would be to go with Roglic, and basically just how I had it before, like that, which is to go with Paddock Painter and Roglic rather than Carapaz and Kelderman, I think it was. Is that the way around when I did it? Either way, it was Iran. And basically, Iran and Carapaz, or Roglic and Paddy Painter. I don't really know which way round I decide to go with that. I think the Roglic is a better time trial over Carapaz, but that's, whatever. I feel like that's about it. I've covered a lot of riders who I'd like to try and get on my team. I think I'm tempted to go with Rog and Pog. I would like to get Wout on, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, so therefore I'm just going to have to settle with something else. But I think that's about it, everybody. So thank you so much for watching if you are still here. I'm hoping that this was very insightful and very useful. I'll try to do a bit of a longer video, a bit more insightful, because this is, of course, the biggest race of the calendar. So I wanted to give you all as much information as possible for you to help make your teams. And that's about it. All that's left to say is to keep your masks on, stay safe, and I'll talk to you next time. Salut!